are our champion. You are our victory. Lord, there's nothing too hard for you. There's nothing impossible for you. Every time we don't know where to go, we don't know what to say, we don't know what to do, you do. Because God, you are a way maker. You work miracles. We believe you, God. We trust in you. Because you are here, Lord. You are here, moving in this place. I worship you. I worship you. You are here, working in this place. I worship you. I worship you. 'Cause you are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. Oh yes, waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. You're here, you are here, touching every heart. I worship you. I worship you. You are here, healing every heart. I worship you. Lord, I worship you. 'Cause you are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. Oh yes, waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. Oh, that is who you are. That is who you are. Oh, that is. Oh yes, that's who you are. That's who you are. Oh, that is. That is who you are. Even when I don't see it, you work. Even when I don't feel it, you working. You never stop working. You never stop working. Even when I don't see it, you working. Even when I don't feel it, you working. You never stop working. You never stop working. Even when I don't see it, even when I don't feel it, working. You never stop working. You never stop
Well, good morning, New Beginnings family. So great to see every single one of you joining us for Virtual MB. I don't think that any of us would have guessed that we would still be doing online services at this point, but here we are. I want to say how proud I am of our graduating seniors and their accomplishments. See, graduation is such a huge part of your life right now, and I'm sure that you're bummed how this year has turned out, but let me encourage you that 20 years from now, the important thing that matters is that you graduated. And at some point, you'll be able to laugh and joke about graduating the class of 2020 and how your senior year was hijacked by the pandemic. Today's message is a word for our graduating seniors and the outlook of life ahead. But it's also an opportunity for the rest of us to check where we're at today and to evaluate who you've become since you graduated. Now, I graduated in 1997 from a small Christian school, and our class of 10 students, which was the largest class in that school's history. That's where I met my wife. That's where so much of my Christian foundation was laid there as well. I was back in Alamogordo just this last week, and I was reminded of so many great memories that took place there. I saw the changes in that town that have happened, and also the things that are still the same some 20 plus years later. And that made me think about not just my life, but my faith and my relationship with Christ. Question for you today is, what changes have taken place in those areas in the last 20 years of your life? I know for me, I've been in ministry, all of that. I youth pastored for 10 years in multiple places, and I've now been the senior pastor here at New Beginnings for 12 years. Since that time, I've got 2 beautiful daughters. I've completed the highest level of credentials for ministry, and my love for Jesus has grown, and it's impacting my family, my church, and my community. I've lost some hair along the way, and it's now coming back in platinum. But I've grown in my faith in God, and I've seen his fingerprint through the good and the bad. I've also learned to trust God more than myself. But what things are the same? Well, for me, I haven't put on much weight since I graduated. I'm only about 20 pounds heavier, and that was intentional because I was a skinny, scrawny kid. My girlfriend, she's still beautiful. I still think I'm 20 sometimes, but my love and my desire to serve God are just as great as it was back then. So this week, heaven gained an amazing man of God that was a huge influence on my walk and my ministry approach. His name is Ravi Zacharias. You see, Ravi was the guru of apologetics. Apologetics is this: it's defending religious doctrines through systematic argumentation and discourse. He was a good debater. He is also known for his gospel presentations and lectures at some of our most prestigious institutions. But one of Robbie's main ministry targets was high school and college students with the message of the gospel of Jesus Christ. You see, he was committed to training students about their faith so that they were equipped to present and to defend Jesus. So today I want to help give you some points that will help you to be successful in life. But as I do, I want to give you an application that hopefully will help. Recently, I was working on this motor here on this boat, and I was trying to get it running, but I was having some issues. And I'm no mechanic, but this is a simple motor, and it doesn't require a degree in rocket science. It's really simple. You need 3 elements: fuel, oxygen, and spark. So I began going through the process, the steps to solve the problem. The first one is fuel. I had to make sure that it had good fuel. I had to make sure that the fuel filter was clean. I had to make sure that the fuel line was good. And I went through all of those, replaced and checked, and everything was good, but it still didn't run. Then on to the next step, which is oxygen. This engine has a really small carburetor, and I took it apart and I cleaned it and reassembled it, and I installed it, put it back together. Still, it didn't run. The third element is spark, and that is a spark plug. So I replaced them because they were really bad, put it all back together again, and still nothing. Well, after all of that, I began calling people who are mechanically savvy, and I kept asking them, what could it be? And they said the same 3 things. Did you check the fuel? Did you check the oxygen? Did you check the spark? So after a few frustrating hours of process of elimination, I put it all back together and made sure, is it getting fuel? Yes. Is it getting oxygen? Yes. Are the spark plugs good? Yes. And I tightened them down, and I tried it again, pulled the cord, and boom, she was alive. You see, this little engine is simple, and there are things in life that aren't as simple, but they have similarities. But we have to put our mind into play and learn the process in order to be successful. One of the lectures that I heard from Ravi, he once said that the mind is to the soul as the brain is to the body. You see, the mind is the facility that God gave us to process all that we know to be true or to be false. And as we train the mind to process the things we experience in life, it will develop skills to overcome trials and difficulties. And graduates, let me tell you, you will experience both of those. But I want to challenge you today to think about the choices that you make from this day forward and develop your mind to honor God. I love what the Apostle Paul says in Philippians 3. He says, brothers and sisters, he's talking to all of us. He says, I do not consider myself yet to have taken hold of it, but one thing I do, that is forgetting what is behind and straining towards what is ahead. I press on toward the goal to win the prize which Jesus has called me. Well, Ravi has received his prize. He's now in heaven. And I'm thankful for his ministry and the impact that he had on my life. And just like that little engine, I want to give you 3 simple steps to develop your mind. The first one is this: learn to forget. There are going to be things from your past that we regret, mistakes that we make, and you're going to have to forget them. We all have struggles. We've all been hurt by people, and we all have wounds that we thought were healed. There are things from your past that you can settle, but there are many others which we must shut the door in order to move forward. As hard as it is, sometimes there are even people in your life that you will have to leave behind. And that's why the Apostle Paul encouraged us to focus on what is ahead, to look forward, to forget. So there's going to be some things you have to learn to forget. And number 2, you're going to have to be determined what you will remember. King Solomon in Ecclesiastes gives us so much wisdom about the meaning of life. He talks about the seasons for everything and the things that come and go. He talks about there are things that we value greatly that are actually meaningless. He says there are things in life that are meaningless. There are things that you graduates studied in school that you'll never use again. They are meaningless. But there are things that you will still use today that you learned from kindergarten, like coloring inside the lines, washing your hands, don't run with scissors, your ABCs, your numbers. You see, the things that we remember will determine your outlook on life. So we must remember the times that God has been faithful, even if they were difficult. Jesus said that we would go through difficult times. And that's what leads us to our last point, is to be committed to God's love. You see, God loves you so very much. He knows everything that has happened to you, the things that he wishes that had never happened to you. But let me tell you, he was there with you through those difficult times. And he wants to bring healing into your life today. One thing I know about the love of God is that it is powerful and that his love follows us through the darkest and the most difficult times. So we must forget the pain from our past. We must remember God's faithfulness, and we also have to stay committed to his love. I'm sure that there are things that you've already thought of from your past that you need to forget. And I'm hopeful that there are things that you remember from when you first came to know Christ that you are still using today. And if not, now is a great time to do so. And lastly, my prayer is that the love of God would overwhelm you right now, wherever you're at, and that it would bring peace and comfort into your life. Seniors, today is a new day. It's a new chapter, and it's also a new beginning. Congrats on all you've accomplished up to this point. But now you can put into play all the things that you've learned, and you can contribute back to society, back to your family, and yes, even back to the church. New Beginnings, we love you. We miss you so very much. We look forward to the day when we get to gather together corporately and worship together. As you know, our governor has lifted some of the restrictions back to 25% of our occupancy
New Beginnings family, Pastor Lizzie here. You guys remember this place? Ah, good times. Good times. We miss you all so very much. I know this won't last forever, but it's been hard to be apart from you. I just wanted to remind you that we do have something for your kids. It's called VDK, Virtual Discovery Kids. Every week we put out a clickable PDF for your kids to interact with. The cool thing is that your whole family can join in on this, and we would love for you guys to grow together as a family as you're at home during this quarantine. So it's super easy. You go to our website, you go to Children's Ministry, and then you'll see the links for each date that we have our series. This Sunday, today, we are starting a brand new series called Heart to Heart. It's all about the King Saul and King David and how God looks at our heart rather than our appearance, and he wants us to be healthy on the inside. It's gonna
Our hearts are important to God. It says in 1 Samuel 16:7 that people look at the outward appearance, but God looks at the heart. This means that we can look like we have it all together on the outside, but on the inside, our heart might look like this. No thanks. So what can we do? How can we have a heart that wants to go God's way?
So I hope that you guys will utilize this tool for your family. I love you. Bye.